Joining us now to react is Vince Coglianese, the Daily Caller executive editor. Okay, so Nancy Pelosi and a lot of Democrats have said this is a non-starter. If you look at what's actually in it, it is $5.7 billion in funding for border security, but there's also temporary protective status for 300,000 people, 700,000 Dreamers for 3 years, $800 million in humanitarian assistance, drug-related technology, more border agents, law enforcement, judges. A whole bunch of things that Democrats have asked for in here. If they just say it's a non-starter without asking for, maybe if all that isn't good enough, we also want X, Y, Z, do they look like they're putting the priority of federal workers or of just politics ahead of all of those people?
Yes.
The DACA workers and everybody.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I think the key question for Democrats here is what's more important to you, getting government workers paid and back to work, or getting a victory over the president of the United States? Because if the answer to that question is the latter, and it appears it is up till this point, then that's not really showing the interest in getting government workers paid and back to work, as Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer keep claiming that's at the bottom of what they want to do. You can't sit up there and say, hey, this is a dire situation for the Coast Guard or for DHS or for TSA or for anybody who's affected by this, and then simultaneously not work to help remediate that issue.
Are there 7 Democrats that would come over to the Republican side in the Senate?
It doesn't look like it, not at this moment. And this is I think this is one of the luxuries thus far of the Democratic Party. They've maintained a pretty fierce stranglehold on their own rank and file. Very few Democrats are even willing to say out loud that they'll support a border barrier, nevertheless a wall. And that's a sign of the strength of Democratic leadership in maintaining this fight against the president, when I think there are plenty of people who, again, just want to get paid and back to work and get our border secure at the same time.
Can I ask a really basic question? Because I guess I don't know how these things work. You know, when the Kavanaugh hearings were going on, all of a sudden we saw ads on local stations and around saying this is what Brett Kavanaugh stands for, call your congressperson. Now at this point in the fight, when you have Republicans saying, we'll put federal workers back to work, we'll protect DACA recipients, we'll put this money into new Border Patrol, we'll put this money into humanitarian aid, all you have to do is come to the table. A lot of Americans aren't hearing that message, that that's what, you know, the president is offering and Republicans are offering. Why doesn't some super PAC step up and put some ads out there or do something to get the message out?
Because I feel like the president is the only one who has a heart in this fight. I mean, honestly, you know, Mitch McConnell, for his part, I think the president's pleased with him. He's like presenting legislation in the Senate only that he thinks the president will sign. You have Kevin McCarthy, on the other hand, who's been pretty vocal and supportive of the president. But I honestly think behind closed doors in Washington, rank-and-file Republicans are used to just being nervous and losers in these political fights. So they're kind of cowed into silence. They don't want to step out front. They don't want to say a whole lot about this. And I think institutional Washington, the Republicans, are actually so divided on the issue of immigration, some of them are actually more open borders than they let on, that they're not willing to get out front and center and be supportive of the president. So the president feels alone in this. The exception to that is he has a broad base of actual voters who do support him in this fight.
Interesting. Vince, all right, thank you for that. Depressing, but truthful nonetheless.
Yeah.
Good perspective.
That's Washington.